Mandy, and welcome to the About Her show. This show is about women achievers who we call women trailblazers, women who we feel have, managed to follow their dreams and aspirations in life and get to where they wanted to go. The idea is, to give them a platform to talk about their work, their journey, and at the same time, inspire the listeners, women who are listening in and perhaps, are just waiting before they take that leap to get inspired. And eventually, we want to build a community of women who are there to support, empower, mentor each other, be there for each other. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sangeeta. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I think this is it's really nice to hear about the efforts that are being taken over here, and I think it's really important for us, the entire women community, to essentially help support each other to lift us all collectively up. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So, just as an icebreaker, tell us a little bit about your early life, your childhood, and if you think any of those early experiences, they left an imprint on you and, kind of guided the path or took you to the path that you are on right now?
Yeah, I have a very, I look back at my childhood and it feels like it was yesterday, but of course, many years have gone by since. I grew up in Bangalore, and
Yeah,
the Bangalore that I grew up in is very different from the Bangalore today. That's
yeah.
what I hear. My dad was an army officer, and he was posted in Bangalore. And unlike people in the traditional, army setting, we really did not move from one place to another. My father made a very conscious choice to essentially stay put in one place so that he would give us more of a stable upbringing. And he was able to do that because he was doing his research at ISC Bangalore. And as it turned out, he was the first person in the Indian Army to do his PhD, in where the corps that he belonged to, the Signals Corps. So that, yeah. But so the reason I'm mentioning that he was a real source of inspiration right from the beginning.
Okay.
And once he picked up his PhD from ISC, he chose to stay in Bangalore, associated with DRDO, the Defense Research and Development Organization.
Okay.
Um, and so he was literally my father figure growing up.
Okay.
I always looked up to him. And I still remember this one time my dad would ask me, so what do you want to do? And I said, I wanted to become like you. I
Oh,
also want to join
okay.
the army and become
Hmm.
like you. And I still remember him telling me, the army is really not a place for women.
Okay.
You don't really get good jobs if you are
Mm-hmm.
to join the army. So maybe you should look somewhere else. And I still remember thinking, what and why? Because up until that point, and I grew up in a household where there was no distinction made between, being a boy or a girl. It
Mm-hmm.
was nothing was impossible for me
Hmm.
because I was a girl.
Hmm.
If it was impossible, gender neutral impossible, but not because I was a girl. And
Okay.
so this was, I mean, if my memory serves me right, that was the first time it occurred to me, why? Um, of course, I'm glad to see a lot of things have changed since that time. But then uh, that made me, for the first time, realize that not everything is open to women. To women. I all I did as a child was aspire to be like my dad, and
Hmm.
that was the first time it occurred to me that no, not quite.
Yeah.
But that apart, I think my parents were a big factor in shaping who I am today and who I became as I was growing up. Very strong influence, both my mom and my dad. Uh, uh, the school I went to it's a school in the neighborhood of where I lived. A
Mm-hmm.
very nice school tucked away in a very nice setting.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I look back again, the teachers, wonderful teachers who, again, I remember them with a lot of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, but then I was always, I think, very driven is how I would define myself. And I have to give, again, my parents a lot of credit for it because they always propelled me on. They were like, you know, go ahead, you can do this, you can do that. Um, and then when I was in, this would have been perhaps more in my high school years when I first heard about IIT.
Okay.
And then we had somebody in the neighborhood whose son, and I still remember this, JE ranked 21,
Okay.
21, and the whole, the whole community was so proud of him, and I was, I was thinking to myself, wow, it's so nice not only to land for yourself, but to make the community proud, to
Yeah.
make the
Yeah.
people around you proud. Um, and I did, and I had, I had a very strong inclination for math and science
Yeah.
growing up. And that was my strength. And I began actually talking about it with my parents, and my dad said, "You can do this. You can get in. You can get in if you want to do this. Put your mind to it. You can do it." Um, and so the last 2 years of my high school, I just put it as my goal. I just put it
Okay.
as my goal. All right, this is what I'm going to do. Um, I should mention, all along growing up, I did actually think about medicine
Oh, okay.
for, you know, that was my mom inspiring me. Yes, you can also do medicine. And, we grew up in an environment where being a doctor, being an engineer were pretty much the choices
Yeah.
that were
Yeah.
laid out in front of you. And of course, I'm so glad that things are very different now. But I think the essential characteristics which still remain in me, I think, were seeded right at that point growing up. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I guess it happens to all of us, our upbringing, the way our parents raise us, that does, of course, leave an impact. So, as a child, you initially aspired to be like your dad, and gradually then you moved towards wanting to get into, engineering. And of course, you've done a wonderful job of that. So tell me, when you decided, and of course, when you kind of got onto that path, were there any challenges that you faced, and especially because of what you wanted to do? So obviously, did you have any challenges because of your gender?
All right, I'm going to say something that is, pretty stark. So I
Okay.
went to an all-girls school.
Mm-hmm.
This is growing up in an all-girls school, and they were Catholic schools.
Okay.
Where you taught. I mean, again, very grateful for having been in that setting, but the qualities of discipline and all of that, again, deeply embedded in all of us by virtue of being in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
From an all-girls setting, I had an intermediate stint where I did go into a co-ed environment in my last 2 years of high school in class 11 and 12, but pretty balanced. And of course, that to me was a little bit of a shock because, when you grow up not really exposed on a regular basis beyond the gender that you belong to, it takes a little bit of adjusting too. But, again, some of it is personality driven. It didn't take me too much time to adjust, and that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from there, um, I uh, I give my joint entrance exam for IIT, clear it, land up in IIT, and shocker,
Yeah.
we have about a total of maybe in the batch about 550 students,
Mhm.
um, and a little more than double digits of women. This is the entire batch.
Yeah. Okay.
Through my undergrad, I was in the computer science and engineering department.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out I was pretty much the only girl in the department. There was another foreign student who was there for some time,
Mm-hmm.
but in my batch, you can imagine being literally one or two against about 33 students in
Mm-hmm.
that particular class.
Yeah.
If it, I don't think it can get really worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and remember, this was in an environment where girls were expected to be back in their dorms or hostels by 10. I think the curfew was 10 p.m.
Mhm.
Uh, Now remember that you're away from home.
Yeah.
You're you typically would lean on your friends
Yeah.
or your batchmates to study together. To do your homework together. To prep together because that's your family.
Of course.
Now that a lot of it wasn't an option for me because in typical college style, a lot of people do their studying at night.
Hmm.
Now a the boys would get together in their hostels because they had the option to do so.
Mhm.
um, I did not have that option. I again, guys weren't allowed into the girls hostel, and for good reasons.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
look at it that way, girls did not go into the boys hostels again, for good reasons. If I look back, but then here I was, guys were getting together to study, guys were getting together to solve their homework problems. And here I was trying to figure things out alone in a
Hmm.
hostel, right? Tell me if that is not challenging,
Of course.
from that
Of
standpoint,
course
right?
it is. It is.
Now, having said that, um, what did that do to me? I think it just helped me,
Hmm.
helped me. You find a silver lining and you realize it actually helped me become very resilient.
Yes.
Realize that you can do this on your own. It doesn't mean that you will ideally get to where you would have gotten to with all the help around you, but
Mhm.
you can make it on your own.
Yeah.
And that I realized I got that pretty early on, just
Hmm.
because of the circumstances that I was at IIT.
So actually, that's true. Every trying situation, it does have something in you, some learning, some element of resilience. And it is only when we look back that we realize what that situation did to us. Of course, when you're going through it, obviously you don't feel very good, but eventually I think it just turns out to be probably one of the best things that, ever happened to us. So tell me something. Of course, we have, come a long way from where we were when we were growing up, and you see a lot of women getting into the space of STEM and, becoming engineers and getting into, medicine. Not medicine, but yes, engineers and computer professionals. But still, if you look at it, we have miles to go. So, are there any tips that you would like to share with young girls wanting to get into this space?
Actually, I would use what I experienced in childhood
Hmm.
um, to essentially emphasize
Yeah.
what the girls of today should take forward.
Hmm.
And I would say this is messaging to the parents, because my parents, right from the beginning, recognized my strengths and
Yeah.
propelled me in that direction. And when you're a child, there's so much you can do on your own, but there's so much you can do with the help and the environment that you're in. And when you're growing up, it's your parents who have uh, tremendous impact in shaping who you are.
Hmm.
So your parents, your school setting, your teachers, and all of the so I think it's really important that when a child, as little as a toddler, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
um, when you're essentially, say, given just a doll to play with as opposed to Lego toys to build,
Yeah,
um, I think therein lies an opportunity to
absolutely.
fix it right away there.
Yes.
To say, if I want to play with Legos, give me a choice. Put dolls in front of me, put Lego toys in front of me, and let me decide which way I want to gravitate.
Correct.
But give me those options.
Yeah.
So I think, I really think, and those options come when the environment at home, the environment in school,
Hmm.
really allows you to do so. And
Yeah.
I think it's not today. We don't have. We still struggle with gender equality in these professions,
Mm-hmm.
not because women are not good enough, but I really think because they haven't been given the opportunities, the same opportunities that, on an average, the other gender has been exposed to.
Yeah.
And I think let the children fly. let irrespective of gender.
Mm.
In when I talk to a few high schoolers, and you begin to see this trend that perhaps at the primary school level, you
Mm-hmm.
might see both girls and boys being fairly, if they have an opportunity, again, fairly equal in
Yeah.
the math and science areas. um, at the high school level, it begins to tilt a little bit towards uh, male centric, and then by the time you get to college, typically it has, the imbalance is pretty stark and in your face. And then you wonder, what happened over here. And if I look back and say that, just genetically how we are wired,
Mm-hmm.
when you're asked a question, boys tend to raise their hands even if they don't know the answer. This is
Yes.
just, this is again genetically how we're wired. Women tend to women, as in even girls, tend to feel that, no, I'm not good enough. No, I don't know the answer. There's a lot of self-doubt
Yeah.
uh, that's in there, despite the fact that they actually know the answer, they know the right answer. So, if you look at the distribution in a class setting and you ask a question, typically you'll have most of the boys saying,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know the answer, when they don't know, and girls tend to, retract. And what
Mm.
happens, and that tends to feed itself, because they get, begin to get either sidelined. Guys, as a population, tend to move up quicker,
Yeah. Yeah.
just because they've raised their hand. So messaging out to girls is, raise your hand. It's
Mm.
okay if you're wrong, raise your hand, participate. Don't question yourself. Be confident
Yeah.
about your thoughts.
Yeah.
Be confident about your thoughts. Be confident about, what you say.
Mm.
Don't hold back. And
Yeah.
I think, those are some of the critical, just implicit things which I think need to take off to
Yes.
really help move the needle here.
Correct. Implicit, but very critical. Somewhere, from the
Yeah.
very beginning, like you said, those options have to be given. I think we only condition as parents, girls to think in a certain way and believe that they can or cannot do certain things. So it has to begin right from there. Yeah. So, Mandy, tell me, on a regular day, of course, we have our work and we have our family and all of those things, but not every day is as bright and beautiful as we would like it to be. And there are some days when we are down and out. So, on those kind of days, how do you kind of, motivate yourself or keep yourself on track?
Yeah, Sangeeta, I want to say that, every 24 hours has a day and a night. And
Yes.
so, you have it's just indicative of how your days or your regular moments can be. You have your ups and you have your downs, and if nature doesn't represent that well enough, then what does? To an extent. And
Mhm.
you typically, by choice, we sleep through the night so that we can function through the days. And it's
Yeah.
the same thing, with your darkest hours. You essentially, you ride through it so that you're strongest when you wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
and tackle the day. So it's funny. In my work day, I typically have a virtual background which shows sunrise, and I always joke about it, and I say, this is me. It's sunrise for me at the present moment. And
Mm.
that's how I look at it. Take it by the moment. That's the moment you have control over, which is now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. So it's a very powerful realization. It's taken me a long time to actually get to this point. And sometimes you have the things that happen in your life which are life changing.
Yeah.
And to me, to be honest, I did lose my parents, really fairly young, and they were. And I think I could turn around and say, "Oh my God, this doesn't happen to everyone. How could it happen to me?"
Mm.
And all of that. But then I realized that, it's temporary for everyone. It's temporary for everyone.
Mm.
What you have in control is now,
Yeah.
is the current time. And
Yeah.
so just hold the bull by the horns and rally forward. And and of course things don't always go right. Things don't go right. But there is always opportunity. You just have to turn around and look. There's always opportunity in the moment that's presented in front of you. And I think it really, if at all anything that has emphasized the power of now
Mm.
is the fact that, when you deal with loss
Yeah,
from
yeah.
a different standpoint, and you cannot do anything about it. You turn around and, all right, what can I control? I really enjoy my kids, I enjoy my family, I enjoy the settings, and I enjoy being present.
Mm, mm, mm. I
And
think
that's the way I
that
look at it. Yeah.
having that optimistic bent of mind, looking at life as being, like the glass being half full or half empty. I think that is something which really keeps us on the path. It is how you look at life. And if you have an optimistic, outlook, an optimistic disposition, I think out of every lesson, everything that happens in life, which is not how you would want it to be, you do learn something. And that, I think, keeps you on track. Because like you said, there is day and there is night, and after night, there is day again. So that's how we have to look at life. Like if there is uphill, there is a downhill, and there is an uphill all over again. So yeah, these lessons in life, yes, they do teach us a lot. And so tell me something. I don't know whether you've seen around you, but a lot of people nowadays are doing what I call the midlife rebooting. In their 40s and 50s, they start looking towards doing other things, things that they were not trained to do. So maybe an engineer, wants to get into writing or singing or dancing or whatever. So, why do you think this is happening? Is it because we are more aware now as compared to the previous generation, or what is it? What are your views on it?
I think nothing is more powerful than being shaped by experiences. And
Yeah,
when you are in your teens or your 20s, you don't have as much experience or knowledge as you do as the years go by.
yeah,
And then there is also this realization, a lot of things change around you, a lot of events you experience, a lot of moments of excitement, a lot of life changing happenings with your family, with your friends, you experience as you move into your 40s and subsequently, and then you realize, uh my God, life is going by too quickly.
mm-hmm.
I have not done what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
And if you look back sometimes, then you think maybe the number of years I have ahead
mm,
is less than what has gone by. That
yeah,
thought or realization suddenly happens. And I think that realization is perhaps something that's propelling folks to say, you know what, I need to do something else. There's
yeah,
also the aspect of, uh, you've seen a lot more than when you're in your teens and 20s, and obviously, and then you realize, part of it, you want to give back. There is this aspect of wanting to give back, which becomes a lot more. And typically, people are a lot more comfortable by the time they get to their 40s and 50s, again, in terms of they've got food on the table,
yeah,
the children have perhaps flown the nest, they are in a position where they said, I've done my initial set of responsibilities that I signed up for,
mm,
say
mm,
15 or 20 years ago. That
yeah,
phase
yeah,
is done. All right, this is a good point now to pivot and to look at something, let's call it more meaningful, so that I feel like I'm now, giving back. So I think that's perhaps what's propelling, 2.0 or, midlife, however you want to put it.
mhm.
And in fact, it's funny you say this, because now we're learning about 3.0, which is post-retirement, that
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
saying we can look at it. The other thing I want to say is that we're also in a period where people are a lot more, I want to say, um, they're really living life in a lot more healthy fashion, or just
yeah,
physically more able to live life in their
yeah,
40s, their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. They have the strength, both
mm,
mentally and physically.
yeah.
Um, and that's enabling, I think, all of us to look at, options which are very different from what we signed up for in our 20s.
Yeah. And plus, of course, I think we're living in a world where we have a lot of exposure, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of awareness and acceptance. So I think all
Oh,
that
absolutely.
also, adds to this desire. So
Yeah.
tell me, now you have, of course, done, I think, what you wanted to do in life in terms of your profession and maybe personal too. So tell me, how does the world look at women who have accomplished their dreams, who are successful in their fields? How does the world react? And when I say the world, I mean both men and women. How do they react?
Um, I, in my mind, I think the world is very receptive. This is, from that standpoint. But again, you look at the world through the glasses that you wear,
Mhm.
uh, and how you experience it. And I think I think the world needs a lot of contributions and help from humanity at large.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, you know, the, the macro level dreams that we want to realize cannot be accomplished with half the population. I think, and the people who are educated enough to understand that,
yeah, yeah.
which is a significant part of the population. I'm not going to, say that.
Mhm.
Recognize and appreciate the contributions of those who, you know, manage to help with that goal.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh, Now, at a micro level, unfortunately, there's a lot of illiteracy in my mind uh,
Mhm.
still that pervades the entire environment, and it's the illiteracy or the people who are illiterate from this standpoint are the
Mhm.
ones who don't welcome
Yeah.
success irrespective of gender. They are you know they are stuck in times, I want to call it dinosaur age times, or from the where they have very set expectations, and I still, for the life of me, I don't justify it.
Yeah.
I'll say why it is, but it doesn't make it okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, where if being a woman, just by being a woman, you cannot get to a goal post,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you should not get to a goal post. There's nothing stopping you, but they in their
Yeah.
minds think you should not be at a goal post.
Yeah.
um, I think we should just assume that that's going to, not just assume, collectively assume and collectively march in a direction to ensure that that perspective does not continue to gather wings
Mm-hmm.
and gets squashed totally. We're getting there. We're getting there. A lot more, it's not a lot more male members of society across the world globally
Yeah.
now, a lot more receptive, a lot more appreciative of women
Mm-hmm.
essentially, moving towards respective goalposts that they have, established for themselves. But it is a collective effort that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That takes time. If I was the only girl in my class, if I look back at at IIT, where in the computer science and engineering department
Mm-hmm.
now, they perhaps have more than one
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
two women in their class.
Sure.
Do they have 50%? No. We
Mm.
have ways to go there, but we're making it. We're making it slowly and slowly. And we should not stop as society. We should not stop. And, women cannot do this alone. We
Yeah.
need men to help us. And if men weren't helping us, we wouldn't be making those delta, little progresses that
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
making. So the way I look at it, to your question on how do you think we are being received,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a battle that's slowly being won. That's how
Great.
I would say.
That sounds positive, and it is, yes, true also. So tell me, as a woman, and I guess, though I feel that men don't have so much of it, but as a woman, you have to juggle different balls. Yes, we still
Yeah.
have family, and of course, if we are working, that and social obligations. So, any formula that you have of being successfully able to juggle those balls?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm really grateful because I have a very supportive spouse
Okay.
who's, I want to say, who has lifted me up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, uh, and you are absolutely right. I think, working women who are
Yeah.
also moms,
Mm-hmm.
who are also taking care of, the household simply because they're much more capable.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
from that, I really think so. uh, um, but who, you know, who really want to be able to do it all.
Yeah.
There is it's a choice that, and I made a choice. I made a conscious choice to be, you know, to have a family. I
Hmm.
made a conscious choice to, you know, pursue a career outside the house. You know, pursue a professional career, and you know, I made a conscious choice to be able to carry both. You know, to do both.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and in an environment that's supportive is what would allow you to do so. You know,
Yeah.
with, you know, I've had a career where I've traveled quite a bit with little children at home that my husband took care of.
Hmm.
um, and you know, it worked, and I traveled, and you know, obviously, ideally, you want to be around. You know, you want to be there. You want to be here, and you want to be there. And we haven't yet reached a point where we're able to clone ourselves, so you can just be at
Hmm.
one place at one time.
Yeah.
Um, but for example, every time I traveled before I left home, I would, you know, just cook all the meals for
Hmm.
the duration that I would be away from the house, just to make it easier. You know,
Yeah.
make it
Yeah.
easier
Hmm.
at home, so the family wouldn't have to worry about the meals, you know. So,
Hmm.
you know, focus on uh, and I think, you know, between the two of us, my husband and I, you know, my husband always said, again, it's very, uh, you know, my husband knows me, he knows who I am, and he's never squashed who I aspired to be. He would say, go for it, you know, if you want to get there, go for it.
Hmm.
I'll be behind you all the way. And I think every woman needs, you know, needs a person who will lift them up
Yes. Yes. Yes.
on a regular basis. And I was really fortunate to have that to help me, you know,
Yeah.
do
Okay.
this.
Great, great. So, Mandy, tell us, we like we have progressed a lot in terms of, girls getting more opportunity to do what they want to do, but at the same time, there are certain things that they need to keep in mind, going forward, whether it is their professional or personal lives. So, any tips that you would like to share with young girls of today who are, on the verge of their professional and personal journeys? Say someone who's maybe 18 or 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah, again, as I was mentioning, I think genetically how girls are wired,
Yeah, yeah.
and for all the good reasons, very different from how uh, guys are
Mm.
wired. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
genetically, again, by nature, we have a very, you know, we women tend to be more ones who care more, or who, you know, this is the you know, what you call the motherly instinct, which is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we've been given with. But my thing is, let's turn around and use that uh, uh, positively. You know,
Mm.
use that, essentially that particular trait,
Yeah,
to say, in your mind, if caring is what comes to you,
yeah.
uh, because you know, you want to take care of that little child, or, you know, someone in the house,
Hmm, hmm.
turn around and think about, you know, caring for humanity.
Okay.
What can you do
Hmm,
with your strengths, with the strengths that you've been given,
hmm,
to
hmm.
take care of humanity? And the
Okay.
way I look at my role, and
Hmm,
I'm in the semiconductor industry,
hmm, hmm.
and you would ask yourself, how is that related to caring for humanity?
Huh.
But I'm working in a field, in my mind, that enriches the lives of
Hmm,
everyone on the planet. You know?
hmm, hmm.
I'm enabling technology.
Yeah,
I'm part of, you know, of the workforce that has enabled, you know, everyone, each of us,
yeah.
uh, to use technology to
Hmm.
connect with
Yeah,
each other.
yeah.
um, why we are having this, you know, this particular call is because technology has enabled us and brought us to this point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in a convoluted way, you, well, would actually say that if you dig in,
Hmm.
you realize that in our fields,
Yeah.
similar to a field where, so you are a nurse or you're a teacher,
Yeah.
where you're helping,
Mm,
helping and taking care
mm,
of human beings in their own way. I'm
yeah.
doing it too.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
once you look at, so professions outside of, the traditional ones that women have been in,
Mm,
they're also ones that help enrich the lives of people around. So
mm,
to that 17 and 18-year-old
mm,
who's thinking that I'm really not cut out for that, or intrinsically,
mm, mm,
not thinking consciously but unconsciously, that I want to gravitate towards a field uh, like, which is more akin to what
mm.
I would do when I'm at home, which is basically taking care of the
Yeah,
family.
yeah, yeah,
Let me think a little bit outside. And that is also for me, because at the end of the day, I am taking care of humanity with what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't hold yourself back.
Mm,
Don't hold yourself back. Be driven by using your strengths
mm,
and your abilities
yeah.
to make a difference. And let me tell you this, Agita, and this is something, I tell my children this.
Mm,
To me, failure is not the outcome of a result.
mm-hmm.
Failure for me
Mm.
is when you haven't tried with your full potential, to me.
Yes,
If
yes.
you have the potential and you haven't tried,
Mm,
in my mind, you failed.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And
So, if you're gifted, and feels like, math and science,
mm,
and you choose not to do it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe you're failing there. That's the
You
way I
have a
look at it.
point. Yes, yes. So your perspective, your attitude, all these things, I think they make a lot of difference and they kind of determine who you are going to be and what you're going to be doing. So, Mandy, 10 years
Yeah.
from now, where do you see yourself?
10 years from now, I still see myself enjoying the present.
Wow. Wow. All right. Okay. Yes. Enjoy the
Very,
present,
very
enjoy
simple.
every moment. Make the most of what you have. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. That's what you've been given, and life is a present. So you've
Of
got to
course.
enjoy it. Enjoy the now.
So, my last and final question, which I ask every woman, can a woman have it all?
A woman can have it all. The all is, your definition of all. If you
Yeah.
wake up every morning saying, "Yay, I'm ready to take on the day,"
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so I think you have it all. I really think so. I think we have it all. There's so much we've been gifted with. I think, you look for the all that you want to pick. This. You make your choice
Yes.
and you just go with it. And it's very fulfilling,
Yeah.
um, you know, to go through the choices that you've been presented with and
Mm.
the ones that you've taken. And it's
Yeah.
for yours to take.
That I think is very important. Your choice. And of course, if you've given it your all, like you said, if you know you can do it and then you do it, yes, that is what it is. So ultimately, it has to be your choice and what you want. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Mandy. It was, yes, an extremely delightful conversation and, perspective, like it's like, I asked the same set of questions to most women and the answers are so very diverse. And yet somewhere we're all the same. At the core, I think we women connect with each other, maybe in different ways, but there is that connect, which we cannot find with the other gender. So thank you very much for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did.
I loved it. Thank you, Sangeeta. And again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for all that you do.
You're most welcome.